Hey guys, it's Michael and this is my fall wrap-up. So these are the books that I read in December. Let's go because there's quite a few on this one. So this is when I did Vlogmas, and so if you watched my Vlogmas videos, you will see that there were some books that I was not the biggest fan of. So let's get started because I'm about to go in. Okay! Cause I'm about to dive in. That's awful. The first book that I listened to was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas, narrated by Jennifer Akida. So first off, this book, I talk about this in the vlog, but I love it when entertainment like movies and whatnot is hyped because it just gets me really excited. I think that comes from a background of me with video games because I love video games and those get incredibly hyped all the time, and I'm not gonna lie, I also perpetuate the hype too because when you're telling other gamers about a game that you personally love and they haven't played it, then obviously you're gonna hype it up. This book was incredibly hyped. I've never read a Sarah J Maas book before, so I was really excited to get into this. Lord. Okay, so this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So in the beginning, I was like, oh, okay, this wasn't actually that bad in the beginning, and I was actually really excited. As I started, I was like, oh, okay, so we have this like really badass character. I was like, oh, okay, she's almost like Katniss, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot all of their names because I tend to not remember names that I don't like from books I don't like, so I forgot. But anyways, it's about this girl. I knew going in that it wasn't gonna be like the Disney Beauty and the Beast retelling. It was more akin to like the old school Beauty and the Beast, like with the three sisters and then there's the mom or something like that. And you guys, I was not the biggest fan of this book. I rated it really low. Like, I did not like this book at all. So first off, with this being a Beauty and the Beast retelling, I was like, wait, so your male lead is not ugly? Like, I think that's important because, or a beast at least, because that's what makes Beauty and the Beast Beauty and the Beast. It's about a girl who is beautiful essentially and a person that is not, and because of their differences they get together and shows that love can overcome anything. But no, it does. Like, apparently he's really attractive. I'm assuming this is considered new adult because they do have some fun times together, some fun sexy times. I was just like, I mean, okay, so this just doesn't work for me. And then also, like, the main character, Sarah J Maas presents her as like this awesome, badass, Katniss-like character in the beginning, and all of a sudden, she loses all of that, like, coolness, all of that bravery. Like, she becomes really, like, succumb to his charm and whatnot. And I was like, what happened to this what happened to this independent girl that you presented to us in the beginning? And then, y'all, this book was boring. Like, the middle portion was boring, and there's a difference between boring and slow. Like, I love a slow book. Perfect example, Game of Thrones. That book is incredibly slow. Nothing really happens, and to be honest, like, until the end. But nothing really happens, but what makes that series great is because since it is slow, you have these incredibly developed characters. So I'm intrigued by reading the book because I was like, oh my god, seriously, I love you so much. You're fucking crazy, but I love you. Like, but here, I was like, girl, ma'am. So towards the end, she has to go through these trials, and I was like, so basically we could have just cut off the middle portion. She gets presented with this riddle, and I was like, oh my god, I bet I know what it is. And it's so easy to guess. It's so easy to guess. The world to me, I felt like wasn't built enough. Like, things just happen just for randomness. Like, just because it fit into the square. Like, it just because it fit into the box. Like, oh, I told myself I was not gonna get this angry. So, so this book presents this relationship between the two main characters, the boy and the girl, and I was like, why would you like him? I was like, he's low-key controlling and abusive, and I was like, I mean, if that's what girls are into, then I don't know, because I was like, what? The reason why she goes to Tamlin, that's his name. So the reason why she goes into his castle is because she did something to someone, like she committed she did something, and that gets brushed off. Like, oh yeah, you know, that's not really important. And I'm like, yeah it is, because she just did something awful to one of the people that is in your court, and we're just gonna brush it off because, you know, there's this prophecy. You guys, I was not feeling this book. I was not here for it. Yeah, I wasn't. And I really did not get or understand. Maybe it's just me, but I really didn't understand the hype for this book. This book just wasn't for me, so... Next! Alright, so the next book that I read was Skype Scraping by Cordelia Jensen. I first heard this book because my librarian and I were talking about books written in verse, and so she was like, oh, I'm currently reading this, do you want to read it also? And I was like, sure. So she lent me her personal copy, and I was like, hook up! It starts off, it has a really intriguing premise. So this book is about Mira, who, now this is not a spoiler, it's about Mira who finds out that her dad is gay. She walks in and finds that her dad, like, having fun times with one of his students. So she finds that out, and then she finds out that her mom knows, like, her mom knows about this relationship. Y'all, that's not even the icing on the cake. Like, there's more. And so this story is in verse, basically, and it deals more of how she's coping with this. And this book really delves into how image of, like, your family can really change after you find out something. And it also shows her about trying to deal with all of these things happening at home as she's trying to apply for college and, like, trying to live life, and it's really affecting her in a sense. Now, since this is written in verse, there are some poems in here that work, and some of them don't, in my opinion. Some were really, really good. I was like, ooh. And some I was just like, oh, okay. She could have told this story just in prose, and I think it would have just worked out fine. The thing though, this book literally kept reminding me of Tell the Wolves I'm Home. I forgot who it's by, but I'll show you here. And this book kept reminding me of that book. So I gave it 3 out of 5. It wasn't bad, it wasn't great, like it just was in the middle. The next book, oh, it's so good, is The Book of Night Women by Marlon James, narrated by Robin Miles. First off, I was going to do a full-on review, but again, I ran out of time, so I apologize. Wanted to read this book or listen to it because of Robin Miles. She is one of my favorite narrators. I love her narration. She did The Warmth of Other Suns. Whoo! Y'all, that's an amazing book. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about this book. So I wanted to read a book by Marlon James, and I was gonna go check out The Brief History of 7 Killings, because, you know, it won the Man Booker, and someone checked it out from their library, and I was like, oh, someone's watching the Man Booker list. So I was like, oh, I wonder, like, if he has any other, like, what's his other works, how's his writing? And y'all, my library came in so clutch. I literally stalk the audiobook page in my library to see what they constantly have. Like, I am on that newly added page a lot, and then I found out, I was like, oh, you guys they added a lot of audiobooks by African Americans, and I was like, oh, yes! Because they added Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and during the same time they had added Marlon James, and I was like, yes! I was so excited. So I was like, oh, which one to read first? So I just picked a random one, and you guys, this book is fantastic. It is so good. It is one of my favorite books of the year. I loved it. It was so good. First off, Marlon James can write. He can write. His writing style is, like, really visceral and just truthful, and he is holding nothing back. In this book especially, I don't know about The Brief History of Seven Killings, but in this book, he is holding nothing back. I loved it. So this book is about Lilith, who she's born into slavery in Jamaica. This takes place in Jamaica, and they're on a sugar plantation. Oh my god, Lily! So y'all, she has no chill. I love her. She is spunky, really hard-headed. As she gets shifted around through plantations because of various things, she discovers this group of women called the Book of Night Women, who meets at night, who has a book, hence the name of the book. You find out, like, this is in the description, they are planning something, and Lily doesn't know what her involvement is in it. And when you find out, I was like, oh, I was like, yeah! So that's the gist of it. I went into this book not knowing anything. This book really focuses on slavery. And one of the things that Marlon James brings up is about the slavery system. There's a lot of things he brings up. But the slavery system, which is really close to the southern, like in the southern states, slavery system. Be forewarned, if you are going to this book, there are triggers, but also if you are sensitive to extreme violence, this is really extreme. This is why I love Marlon James' writing. When I say he is holding nothing back, he is holding nothing back. The way he describes slavery and the cruelties and the awfulness of slavery is so truthful. He talks things about like lynching and whipping and punishments. Like there's a part where he talks, like, I literally was like, oh my god, like I was in shock. Slave owners as a punishment would take, like, what are those things you poke into the fireplace? Like they would brand them that way, but not only like just like a coal picker, doing things like to their private parts. And he describes it in gruesome, realistic details, and I'm not gonna lie, some parts were hard to listen to. I was like, oh my god, like you might want to take a break. This book was extreme, like really extreme. She becomes a house slave instead of a field slave because there is, when I studied African American culture, like I took a class on it, there is a slave theory. I took the class way back when, like freshman year. There's a theory about how to keep people enslaved, in a slavery mentality. It is fascinating. I think it's like an article that we read, and it is interesting how keeping them from reading, because like once a person knows how to read, that like literally opens up their mind. And also about like dividing slavery, since they're like light-skinned and they work in the house, how they're better than the people in the fields because they're darker skinned, how they're better than them. There's a plot with Lily and a slave owner, and that also goes to show how not only blacks in general get subclass with the house slaves and the field slaves, but also in European culture back then there was like Irishmen would be at the bottom and then like the Englishmen would be at the top. Like there was this hierarchy. It's like subconsciously in your mind, so you mentally brought down. Oh my god! Now that's the only one of the topics. This book talks a lot about a lot of topics. I highly recommend this. If you can take the extremeness of the book, I say go for it. I loved it, and I'm so excited to read A Brief History of Seven Killings. Like I'm so excited to read that book because I love this one. 5 stars out of 5. Go read it. Alright, the next book that I listened to, as you can tell, I listened to a lot of books during this month because of time. Since I was doing Vlogmas, I didn't have time to physically read, so I just listened to a lot of audiobooks at work. And so the next audiobook that I listened to was The Emerald Atlas by John Stevens, narrated by Jim Dale. First off, when I saw that Jim Dale narrated this, that's like a check mark for me. I love Jim Dale. He narrates one of the 2 versions of Harry Potter. Oh, so good. Oh, he's such an amazing narrator. The book is a middle grade action adventure book. I actually liked it. It's about 3 characters, Kate, Michael, and Emma. Apparently, like, as each book, there's supposed to be 3 books in the series, we mainly have a perspective of one of the siblings, which in this one is Kate. To me, this reminded me a combination of like Narnia, Harry Potter, A Series of Unfortunate Events. So it's about 3 orphans who discover a magical world and that they are involved with magic. And there are items that they have to retrieve to save the world. So that's why all of those books are named, because it sounds really similar to all of those other ones. But I actually liked it. Like, it was really cool. I think it's just like a fun action adventure middle grade book. I gave it 3 out of 5. The next book that I read was The Particular Sadness of Lemon Cakes by Amy Bender, and she also narrated this. I first heard of this book from Mercedes from Mercy's Bucas Musings. Yes, I hope I said that right this time. This is about this girl named Rose who she finds out it's like a magical realism book. I guess you could classify it as that. She finds out that when she eats food, she can sense the emotion of whoever cooked it. And so she discovers this ability that she has, and that plays into her life as she eats her mom's lemon cakes. She discovers sadness, hence the name of the book. I really liked it. Like, I thought that was a cool ability to have. Yo, I'm not gonna lie. In my head, I was thinking, oh my gosh, is this my life? Like, when I eat food, I think of emotions. Yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I would recommend it. The narration is actually really nicely done, since I love it when authors narrate their own novels. I actually enjoyed her writing too. I gave it 4 stars out of 5. The next book, which I read for my book club, was Let It Snow by John Green, Maureen Johnson, and Lauren Miracle. So this book is a short story collection of those 3 authors. They write each one that actually interconnects. The beginning, which is written by Maureen Johnson, I was like, oh, okay. I knew that it was gonna be like a light, fluffy holiday read. I don't usually read like holiday books like that, so I thought it was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be fun, because I don't usually read holiday books. The first story I really enjoyed. I was like, oh, okay, this ain't that bad. And then, to me, it goes downhill from there. I thought the John Green book was, I don't know what the right word to describe it is, because I was not the biggest fan of the John Green story. You know what really killed it for me? In the beginning, they make this comment about like Korean food, and for some reason, I don't know if I was all up in my feelings, but I felt some type of way about it. I really was like, I don't know how I felt about that. Like, I contemplated, I went off and was like, I don't know how I feel about that. The only John Green book that I've ever read was The Fault in Our Stars, and I like that book. And this one I was just like, The last story, I was just like, okay. I think what happened here is that with the first book, I was like, oh, okay, and then it just went downhill from there. I gave it 1 star out of 5. The next book that I listened to was amazing, which was The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. It's also narrated by him. Whew. Loved this book. This book is about Junior. Okay, I wrote this down. This book, he is from the Spokane? I don't know. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Spokane Indian Reservation. This book is mainly about him transferring to a predominantly white, well, they were all white basically, an all-white school. What I love about this book is his voice. I loved Junior's voice. I really saw him as a true teenager. And it reminded me a lot of why I love Catcher in the Rye. It's that, in case you guys don't know, Catcher in the Rye by J.G. Salinger is my favorite book. Like, I love that book. It's up there with like Cold Sassy Tree, but I love Catcher in the Rye. And this one, the voice alone reminded me of a Holden, and I was like, oh, I love this. I think this was a really great perspective. It was just so truthful. It was like really funny too, because Junior is like a really funny person, but then also, it was also sad. the people around him in his life was really, it was just sad. Some of the stuff that he talks about, especially with his family and his friends also, is just sad in general. But there's always this, I wouldn't say optimistic tone about it, but there's like this hopeful, I guess the right word is hopeful, but there's like this hopeful tone of him as a person. The only thing I would knock down about this book is that the ending and some parts of like the conclusion, to me it wraps up a little bit too nicely. I thought because of the other portions, like the three-fourths of it was just so real and so real world, it's just a little bit too neat, and like everything gets tied up in a nice little bow. But that's just a small gripe. I love this book, you guys. I gave it 4.5 out of 5. I really love this book. Lord, I'm tired, you guys, and I know this video is long, and I got 2 more books, so bear with me. The next one I listened to was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix by J.K. Rowling, narrated by, of course, the awesome Jim Dale. I knew going into this book, because when I read the series, I was like, this is my least favorite book. Because when you're reading this in order, I guess some people could say that Chamber of Secrets is like their least favorite order, but I feel like this book, for me, is my least favorite order, and that's because Harry is super angsty. And I don't remember, the first time I read it, I don't remember him being that angsty. I've always known that he was sassy. I don't remember him being this angsty. Like, he was all up in his feelings on this book. While Umbridge is a great antagonist, I just felt like the pacing on this one was really weird. There are some great things because we finally start to discover why Snape is, like, especially when you're reading this in order, why Snape is the best character in this whole book. Oh! The good thing about this book in the series is that it's the step to book 6 and 7, which the feels on 6 and 7. This is the first time when I first read the series, I was like, she is planning something. Like, you can really see how things in the past 4 books leads up to this, like why things happen in the other books to the bigger events, and that's really great. This book also shows more backstory. This book is, to me, is just like a little bit tedious during, especially when they get to the school. Some parts are just like, oh, okay, come on. So, yeah, but it's still a great read. But this one, I think, is just the lull in the series. But it's still great among all of these other great books. I gave it 3.5 out of 5. Okay, the next book, I literally finished this like at the end, which is Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. This is my first Baldwin book, and it's his first novel. And so I wanted to pick something, because I heard that his Giovanni's Room is like his masterpiece. This author is hyped on BookTube, in the literary circles. It's so true. And I'm so happy to say that. His writing, you guys, his writing style is incredible. I was like, oh, yes, describe these events for me. I loved it. Like, I loved his writing style. It's everything that I love. Like, it's just so good. But you can tell, since this is his first novel, I can feel, like I felt it in my bones, in my spirits, that he is going to do something even better. Like, I feel, as I read more of his works, I feel like this is just the first step. He's going to write an even better book than this. I was just feeling it, and I hope so, because I'm really excited to read his other works. This book is more of a character study than per se a family, essentially, about John Grimes, and it actually switches perspective, like point of views, and each person in like his family essentially gets a chapter, and they're like called prayers. There are a lot of symbolisms in this book and themes. This video is already long, so I'm not gonna go deep into it, but trust me, I can. Really cool when you, since you read this from different like points of view, how you really see things connecting, which is like really cool. One of the main themes that this book deals with is about religion, and it's funny because each person, how they relate to religion in like really different ways. It's just really interesting about how intertwines these like prayers relates to their family and like the choices that they make in life. I really like this. I gave it 3.5 out of 5. It's great. So yes, those are all the books that I read. If you read any of them, let me know. Until then, I'll see you guys till later. Bye!